I'm Thom Tran. This is Comedy on 11, the show where I talk about comedy and music, usually with my comedian friends, sometimes by myself. Today, I'm alone in my studio because I'm back from like a month on the road and I forgot to schedule guests. Let's be very honest about this. That's why the episode's late. It's going to be like 12 hours late. But I wanted to do a little catch up after I've gotten back from my East Coast tour. A lot has happened and a lot to catch up on. So I'm back. I did a great run of shows in Detroit, Washington, D.C., North Carolina, stopped in New York to see my family for a minute, and then drove back to L.A. And if you haven't watched the latest episode, or the last episode, I guess, it was me driving to the East Coast, or I was literally sitting in my car and talking to you about that drive. I had planned on doing this thing where every time I stopped to get food or to charge up, I was going to stop at a Chili's because they had like this $10 meal deal thing. Didn't work out for various reasons, mostly because there weren't Chili's right near where I had to go, but also that $10 meal deal thing, it's only for a couple of items on their menu. Didn't totally work out. I had planned on going to see like a movie at AMC's while I was gone. Like I assumed that I would have time in between my gigs to like go see a movie. None of that worked out. But it's totally fine. It was a great run of shows, and I came back. I did some stuff down in San Diego, Oceanside, actually, with a couple of comedian friends, and I'm home now. And I'm going to be very upfront with you. This episode is very hard to do, and I'm trying to be upbeat. But if you follow me on social media at all, you know that my best friend died like 3 months ago, and we just had his memorial. So kind of a bummer way to start this episode, but I'm just putting it out on Front Street. I'm partially doing this episode so that I don't crack emotionally. It's been a hard, tough time, but also comedy and music. That's why I do this, to get through those tough times. So I'm here talking about comedy and music with you. It's the stuff I love, and hopefully this'll be therapeutic for me as well. So thanks for joining me on this episode of Comedy on 11. A bunch of stuff happened while I was on the road. One of the things that I found out was there's this music company called PMT over in the UK. Formerly known as Professional Music Technology. It's a UK-based musical instrument retailer. For those of you watching on the internet, you just saw that on the screen. But PMT was this great chain of music stores in the UK. I think they had like a dozen or so stores, and they had a great YouTube channel, great internet presence. They would do these gear reviews. They had a dude on that worked there who would do gear reviews. Big Eddie Van Halen fan who looked kind of like Russell Brand. That's not meant as an insult or even depending on how you feel about Russell Brand. That's just kind of how he looked. British cat, long hair, long brown hair. Great player. Loved Eddie Van Halen. It was also always fun to watch. I loved watching their gear review videos. Unfortunately, while I was on the road, PMT shut down. The UK-based retailer recently entered administration and ceased trading. The company, which had 11 stores across the UK and a warehouse in Liverpool, closed all physical locations on June 11th, 2025. Their online store, PMT Online, has also been taken offline. So where some retailers in the musical industry space are shifting completely to online, they're gone totally. I mean, this is huge for a couple of reasons. I mean, Sam Ash just shut down last year, and I remember like driving down Sunset Boulevard to see if I could sneak any deals at the Sam Ash store there, and everything was closed. Like they sold the fixtures in the Sam Ash store. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, PMT, like I said, great YouTube presence. They had to and it was almost, from what I'm hearing, it was so quick. Like the employees were finding out almost simultaneously as the rest of the world was finding out. The company rebranded from Professional Music Technology to Play Music Today in 2022 with a focus on community and inclusivity. Despite the rebranding efforts to stay afloat, PMT was placed into administration on June 11th, 2025. And I guess administration is the British or UK version of bankruptcy. So they had to sell everything. And I was watching a video from another YouTube music guy, and he was saying how like they were making like 20 or 30 million pounds a year selling like gross, like selling 20, 30 million pounds worth of gear a year. But then they broke down like their costs and they were losing like 10 or 15 million pounds. You know, that's 15 to 20 million US dollars. I think it's still a lot. It's still a lot of money that they were losing. And in the music environment, the way it is right now, that's not sustainable. Like everybody's shifting to online sales. And I guess I understand how or why something like that would happen. Like it's heartbreaking because the last couple of times I was in the UK, I was on tour with Brad Williams last year, and then I was on vacation the year before in London with my girlfriend. And I wanted to go to PMT. I wanted to stop like at a PMT store. Like I think they had one in Manchester. It just didn't happen. And I feel the way the industry is shifting now. We keep losing these big retailers, and the mom and pop stores are having already a tough time as it is. And I'll be the first to admit, when it comes to music gear, I don't buy a lot in the store. Like if I need strings or picks or cables or whatever, I'll go to Amazon. Because it's just quick, it's easy, it's stuff that I don't need to like get my hands on. And you know, like when I go buy a guitar, and this is where this is all gonna come together. When I go to buy a guitar, I want to put my hands on it. You know, especially if it's a new instrument, I want to feel it, I want to play it, I want to hear it, I want to find out if the vibe is right for me. Like a lot of the gear that I buy, like I have electric guitars that I love and I swear by. Like I play, you know, the Ernie Ball Music Man's Axis or Eddie Van Halen guitars, you know, or the Ibanez PGM series guitars. It's rare that I go buy a guitar without playing it first. You know what I mean? Like if I'm buying something online, it's usually something that I've had before that I know, you know, there's a standard and it doesn't deviate very much from it. Like if I buy an Ernie Ball Music Man Axis, I know what an Axis feels like. When I do buy those bigger ticket items, like the last 3 acoustic guitars I bought, I had to feel them first. I had to play them. I had to hear them, and I had to get a feel for the vibe. And the way music shops are closing, I fear that musicians, guitarists, and musicians are going to lose that ability to go pick up an instrument and feel it and play it and see if they love it. And this comes back to my drive across the country. There was a Close guitar that I wanted to buy. Let's see if I can find it. Close Guitars. It is this brand of carbon fiber guitars. I've been wanting to get my hands on this. Where is it? I've been wanting this Grand Cutaway Mini. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's a $2,000 guitar. It's $1,959. And that's just the basic one. I want the one with like the cool pickup system, with the onboard effects. That's the one I want. And that's a $3,000 guitar. Now, not just the fact that it starts at $2,000, and the one I want is another $1,000. If I'm going to spend that amount of money, if I'm going to spend any amount of money, like the last 3 guitars I bought were under $1,000. I think they were under $800, as a matter of fact. If I'm going to spend any amount of money on a high ticket item, I want to be able to feel it and play it and touch it. I actually had to go to, where was I driving? I was driving through Colorado on this trip, and I stopped by Glenwood Music, which is in Colorado. It was like a half hour out of my way, off the highway going through the mountains there. And I stopped there to try out one of these close guitars. Like they had the travel guitar that I tried out, didn't love it. They had another carbon fiber series guitar. I think they had just one of these, full carbon series. That's a bass. One of these, the hybrid series or the travel series. I tried them and I was like, not exactly the one I want. So I couldn't really judge or gauge the guitar by the ones I tried out. But again, like if I'm going to spend $3,000 on a guitar, I want to put my hands on it. I want to feel it. I want to hear it and feel if I'm going to love it. Again, any high ticket item. And for me, any high ticket item, I consider anything over $200. Like, I think that's fair. I don't make $1 million. I'm not super rich. Depending on which comedy club I'm playing, I make enough to get a burger, or I make enough to, buy a guitar, maybe. But if I'm going to sink any kind of money into an instrument, I want to put my hands on it. I want to play it. And one of my fears is with like PMT closing and Sam Ash closing last year, we're going to lose so much of that. Like, really, how much more can the industry sustain when you got shops closing? And it's like I like to call the Disney effect. You have all these stars, movie stars and music stars that started on the Disney Channel. It's all, go with me, it's psychological, because you have the Justin Timberlakes and the Britney Spearses and the Ariana Grandes that started on the Disney Channel when they were younglings, and then they grow up and they become the superstars that they are. Now, it's the same way with music. You get a kid to love music, you love guitar or bass or drums or whatever when they were young, and then they grow up to be adults that love music. But like the way we're losing music stores, big box music stores. I mean, PMT, I think, had, what did it say? Like a dozen or so locations. For the folks in the UK who are losing a dozen plus stores, I know Guitar Center is shutting down a bunch of stores. Man, the Guitar Center here down the street in Sherman Oaks has been closed because somebody hit a fire hydrant and flooded the building. And it caused so much damage. And like those kids that want to go and try out gear don't have that opportunity at a place like Guitar Center now. I mean, there are literally dozens of shops around me. Don't get me wrong, like smaller shops around me that you can go to. But even like as a guitarist who's been playing for a long time, who has clearly an extensive collection of guitars, like when I go into some of these like vintage shops, there's a lot of vintage shops here in LA. Even as a guitarist that's been playing a long time, like I'm like, do I want to pick up a $3,000 guitar and just kind of noodle on it? And you have these, when you have kids that like go in, it's different picking up a $300, I don't know, I'll just throw that Ibanez out there, picking that up and jamming on that, and then or picking up like a $2,000 Eric Johnson custom Strat. But regardless, in either case, like, to not have these stores available now to people, it's a shame. And it makes me so sad. It makes me so sad. For another reason, like, here's something else that happened while I was on tour. I was in New York. I was in Buffalo, visiting my dad, and I had lunch with a friend, and she'd picked a restaurant in my old neighborhood where I grew up. I had never been to this restaurant, which is weird because I used to hang out on this street at the bars, and there was a comic book shop down the street. I think it was Queen City Comic Books. And she picked a restaurant that I'd never been to. I was like, oh, is this new? And she was like, no, it's been here 30 years. And I wanted to be like, I've been gone 20 years, but it's been there 30 years, which means it was definitely there when I lived in New York. But again, I was in the Army for a while, and I don't know if I spent a lot of time down there when I first came back. But so she picks this restaurant, and we pull up. I pull up to the address, and I went, are you kidding me? Because the restaurant was right next to a place called Music City Buffalo. And Music City Buffalo was this store on Main Street in Buffalo. It was like maybe a mile and a half from my old high school. And I genuinely was like, are you kidding me right now? This place is still open, which brought me the most joy that I'd felt in so long. Because Music City, like I said, was down the street from my old high school. And I used to walk from my high school, the first high school I went to, the one that I was asked to leave. I used to walk from St. Joseph's Collegiate Institute on Kenmore Avenue in Buffalo. I used to walk there to Music City, and I would lust after these guitars. And if you watched any of my other show, The Story Behind the Strings, the very first episode of The Story Behind the Strings I ever did was an episode about how I almost paid $3,000 for a I almost paid $2,000 on eBay for what I thought was a $300 guitar. My dad bought me a late 80s, early 90s red Fender Squier Stratocaster. That was my 8th grade graduation present. In my head, though, my dad had bought me a hot rodded Fender Strat that I have photos of it. It was like there was this time between the 8th grade and like senior year of high school. I had photos of this hot rod red Fender Strat with a Kahler Spider with a Y trem on it. There was this chunk of time when I was at St. Joe's. So I was at St. Joe's from freshman year, sophomore year. I got thrown out sophomore year, and then I started going to another high school my junior year. So I have these photos from the 8th grade with this red Squier, and then I have photos from junior year to really, I had this red Strat until I was in the Army. I think I finally sold it. Like I was in my 20s by the time I sold it. But those 2 years in between, freshman and sophomore year, when I went to St. Joe's, I would walk from St. Joe's down to Music City, Buffalo, which had to be a couple of miles. And My very first guitar that I bought myself, like I bought myself, was this black Alvarez Super Strat with a Floyd Rose on it. And I bought it from Music City. So I was, freshman, sophomore year of high school. What are you, 13, 14 years old? 14, 15, something like that. I got my driver's license when I was a junior, so I was 16, so 14, 15 years old. And I'd saved up money, and I bought this black Alvarez Super Strat with, I'm pretty sure it had a Floyd or some sort of double locking trem. That was the thing that I wanted so bad, because my dad bought me this Squire Strat, this red Squire Strat with just, a late 80s Squire tremolo on it. And I was a Van Halen dive bomby, 80s shred guy. And it's like, I can't do the thing with this crappy tremolo. So the very, very first guitar I ever bought myself was this black Alvarez Super Strat. And I remember going, Alvarez, that's close to Ibanez. I wanted an Ibanez because Paul Gilbert played Ibanez, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani. Those were the cats that I like, that I dug. And at the time, you couldn't buy an Eddie Van Halen guitar. You could buy a Kramer. You can buy one of those Kramers. But I don't think I could ever, I couldn't find a Kramer. I was a kid. So it wasn't like I was driving music store to music store. The only reason my dad bought me the Squire that he did was because Kubera Music was down the street from where we lived in Buffalo, like literally 2 miles away from my dad's house. Unfortunately, the store's not there anymore. But and the guy that owned it, Mr. Kubera, was a friend of my high school buddies, or my grade school buddies' dad. Like, they were musicians. That's why my dad bought me that Squire. He was not driving me around town to find a Kramer. But I wanted that Super Strat. I wanted like a Floyd Rose type of deal. And I found it at Music City in Buffalo. Now, when I pulled up, like, that yellow sign, that Music City sign, it didn't say musiccitybuffalo.com because .coms weren't a thing when I was in high school. But when I saw Music City, I can't tell you how that felt. Like, my heart jumped. My heart jumped when I saw that sign. And I was meeting my friend there for next door for lunch. And I walked in, and it was like being 15 years old again. The shop looked the same. I think they added like a second room off to the side where they do clinics and like little shows or whatever. But it looked the same, like this long, straight hallway. And I think that at the time, the counter was off to the right, but they had guitars hanging behind the counter. And on the left side were guitars. The owner has since moved the counter to the other side, but it looked the same, man. And like, it was weird because I remember where the Alvarez hung. It hung on the wall towards the back, and where that guitar hung, the Alvarez that I bought, hung like 3 EVH Wolfgang guitars. And I was like, oh, that's apropos of nothing, but it's like, oh yeah, the guitar I wanted, the Van Halen guitars that didn't exist at the time, were now hanging in the place where the first guitar I bought was. And I was so excited. And the owner came out, Vince, and he was like, can I help you? And I was like, I had this big dumb look on my face. And I was like, hey man, I gotta tell you, I came here, 30 years ago as a high school sophomore or whatever, and you sold me my first guitar. And it was this unbelievable feeling of joy that came over to me. Like this memory of like going, I went there all the time to just like noodle on the guitars and dick around. And Vince is his name. He was so nice. And I told him, I was like, hey man, like I think about this place all the time, and I genuinely do. I genuinely think about Music City, Buffalo, the place I bought myself my first electric guitar. And I think it was only a couple $300, which in the 90s was probably closer to $400 or $500. But yeah, I think it was like a $199, $250. I can't imagine I'd have the patience or the wherewithal to save much more than that to go buy this guitar. And like if you look at this photo, that's if you're watching on the YouTube page, where that yellow guitar is, like to the left of those, were where my black Alvarez hung. And it was just this rush of dopamine like I had never felt. Maybe like the first time I stepped back onto Fort Gordon, Georgia, after being gone for like 15 years. A few years ago, I went down to South Carolina and I did a gig at the University of Aiken, South Carolina, which is where I got that photo of B. Arthur that is behind me. That's a long story that I'll tell you later. And while I was in Aiken, I had some time and I drove over to Fort Gordon. And I hadn't been there since I was 19 years old. And I pulled on and I went back to my old barracks. I was like, oh, wow. And that rush of nostalgia that came at me, that is exactly how I felt when I walked into Music City and I saw Vince, and I saw that long, narrow guitar store where I would go when I was a child. And it felt amazing, to have this place in my life that I remember so fondly. It's such like a deep part of my musical history. For me, I had Kubera Music on Harlem Road in Cheektowaga, Music City on Main Street in Buffalo, Daddy's Junkie Music on Sheridan Drive in Tonawanda. Like those are a part of my musical history, my DNA. Ucrest Music on George Urban Boulevard, where the first 120 watt head I ever bought came from Ucrest Music on George Urban Boulevard, which was just under a mile and a half from my dad's house. And I only know this because I recently I went jogging from my dad's house, not far away. And I was like, it was just under a mile and a half. And I remember it was a PVVT 100. So it was a 100 watt head. And I mean, it weighed what a 100 watt head weighs. Was that 50, 60 pounds, whatever? And I was in high school. I was playing in the jazz band. I'm trying to place all this right now. I was in high school. I was playing in the jazz band at Maryvale, so it had to be junior year. And I didn't have a car yet. And I was a skateboarder. I remember riding my skateboard from my dad's house to George Urban Music and buying the head and putting it on my skateboard and pulling the skateboard a mile and a half back to my dad's house because I was too small and scrawny to carry this thing. I mean, I've got a 5150 head right now that's it's right over here that I don't carry more than 10 feet when I have to. So I can only imagine as a 16-year-old what I was doing with that guitar and or that amp head. So those are part of my musical DNA. Yeah, you have like the Guitar Centers now, but like I'll never forget Kubera Music and Music City and Daddy's Junkie Music and Ucrest Music. Those are the things that defined me and my journey with music. Do you know what I mean? Like the lengths I went to, saving up money to buy this Alvarez guitar, walking from St. Joe's high school down to Music City a couple of times a week, dragging 100-watt PV head on a skateboard back to my dad's house. Those are the things that kids are going to lose and kids are going to miss when you have PMT going out of business, Sam Ash going out of business. Guitar Center's not doing great. It's not a secret to say that. Like most cats know, you go to a Guitar Center, it is hard. Like the one over here in Sherman Oaks, man. Like even before they shut down, it was like you would walk in, especially after the pandemic, like you would walk in and you were like, "Does anybody work here? Does anybody work here? Is it it's not the same." So when I hear of like PMT closing and Sam Ash closing, it makes me sad. Not just because we have fewer places to shop and go get our gear and like sit and noodle and talk to other musicians and like those memories that I have of Music City and Ucrest and Kubera and Daddy's. When you don't have the physical shops anymore, you have this new generation of kids who don't get to make those memories. And then as a 30 or 40-year-old later, they don't get that hit of dopamine and nostalgia when they wind up having lunch at a restaurant next to a place they bought their guitar at 30 years before. You know what I mean? Like that's the sad part. That's the part that is difficult for me when, and I was on the road when this was all going on, and I was really sad when I heard about PMT. And I wasn't exactly sure why, because I'd never been to PMT. I wanted to go while I was in the UK, and it just didn't happen. And I couldn't put my finger on why I was sad about this kind of big box store that I had no real relationship with, shutting down in the UK 2,000 miles away, 3,000 miles away from where I live. And then I ran into Vince at Music City, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why I was sad when I found out PMT closed. It wasn't just the, driving to Glenwood Music in Colorado to try out a guitar to find out if I wanted to spend the money on it. It was being able to say, yeah, man, I drove across the country. I was driving through Colorado and I took a detour, took a half hour out of my trip to go down to this music shop in Glenwood, Colorado, where normally I would have never gone. And I met a cool dude named Dylan. I think his name was Dylan, who worked there. Oh, and here's the other thing. While I was at Glenwood Music, right? So I'm talking to this cat Dylan. I was talking to him about the that close guitar that I wanted. The black close guitar that I was trying to get, the Grand Cutaway Mini. And I was telling him about the pickup I wanted. They have like what is it? There's a pickup that they can install that's got like built-in effects. Because I've been playing these Yamaha FSC TAs recently. Let me see if I can find one of those. Yamaha FSC TA. Yeah, there we go. Yamaha FSC TA. It's FSC stands for Oblique Folk Style Cutaway, and the TA is Trans Acoustic. So the reason I've been playing these is because they have these built-in effects. It's got built-in reverb and built-in chorus. I love this guitar so much, and this is not an ad for Yamaha, but if they want to, you can call me and we can talk. I've been playing these FSC TAs on stage so much, I bought all three colors. I bought the red one first, mainly because I saw a photo of it, and in the light, it looked purple. And I was like, I like that. Turns out it's red, very red, but it looks great. Everybody compliments me on the color. I bought the red one, and then I bought the Tobacco Burst one, and then I finally bought the natural colored one. And, you know, they range from, I think, retail, it's like $829. I think I got them. I got a deal. That's, if you watch my other show, The Story Behind the Strings, you know I love deals on guitars. Now, the reason I bought them is because I'm bringing guitar back into my comedy act, and I'm recording, well, I'm in the process of producing a comedy music album. And I've been playing my Taylor, I had like a Taylor 612 CE that I was playing, and I had a Taylor 112 that I was playing for a while. And the problem is when I go to a comedy club, normally, you know, it's just a comedian with a microphone, and they don't need anything else. They don't need reverb or delay or anything like that. And normally, if I say to a sound person at a comedy club, I'm like, hey, do you have some reverb? They will look at me like I got 9 heads. Because all they know is microphone up, microphone down. That's it. And there were a couple of shows that I was playing that I went back and I watched the video, and it sounded so dry, especially because the acoustics in a comedy club aren't really made for guitar or music in general. And it was just like a dry guitar through a DI box, and it sounded terrible. Like, yeah, the audience couldn't tell, and the audience was more, you know, focused on the music and the lyrics and the comedy of it. But like as a musician, and there's always musicians in the audience, like as a musician, I'm listening back to this going, this sounds like trash when it's just dry like that. And yeah, I could bring, you know, chorus pedals or reverb pedals or whatever with me. But in a comedy club environment, you don't have time for that. Like if you've never been to a comedy club, like you have the host, they just bring the next person up, they take the mic and they start talking. Now, if I was in a situation where it's like, hey, let me come up and plug in my guitar and get my pedals set up and get everything turned, like that kills the vibe of everything. So when I found these FSC TAs, I was like, oh no, this sounds so great. Now to bring it back to Glenwood music, I didn't originally want the FSC TA. I originally wanted the Transacoustic Tag 3C, which is this guitar right here. The Yamaha Tag 3C Transacoustic guitar with not only built-in effects like reverb and chorus and delay, it's got a built-in looper. And if you look at a photo of it, there's like this little button at the lower horn, which is the looper pedal. That's the guitar I wanted to try out. That's the guitar I wanted to play because it was, you know, it's got a built-in looper and cool effects and all that. The problem is it's an $1,800 guitar. And again, if I'm going to spend any amount of money over a couple of $100, I want to hear it. I want to play it. I want to feel it. If it's an amp that I've not previously had experience with, I want to hear that tone. I want to feel it. I want to play it. I've been trying to get my hands on a Yamaha Tag 3C for so long. I wanted to play it. I wanted to see how it was because it's $1,800. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to play it. I wanted to get a vibe for it and see if I would love it. Glenwood, Colorado, while I was there talking to, again, I believe his name was Dylan. Totally sweet dude. I'm playing the close guitar. And I was like, this isn't really the one I want. I wanted the one with the built-in effects. And he goes, oh, we got this Yamaha in the back. And I was like, which one? And he goes, the Tag 3C. I'm like, what? I've been going to guitar centers and music shops all over Southern California trying to put my hands on one. And he goes, yeah, you want to try it? And I go back and I try it, and it sounds great. It plays really good. The effects and the looping take a little bit of, there's a little learning curve, obviously, because you got to, figure out the dials and switches and stuff. But the biggest takeaway I got from playing that was the Tag 3C is a dreadnought guitar. It's a bigger guitar, and I've said a dozen times, I'm a little dude. I'm like 5'7", 5'8" on a good day wearing jump boots. It's the reason I don't play Gibsons. Like I have a Les Paul. I keep one here to remind myself why I don't play Gibsons. It's because they look cool on dudes like Jared James Nichols, who are 6'3", 6'4", but on a dude that's like 5'7", it's hard to play those for a long amount of time on stage. I keep one in the studio for A, when I need the tone of a Les Paul and I'm recording, or B, anytime I got a wild hair up my ass and I'm like, oh, I want to go buy a Les Paul. I pick that up and I walk around for 2 minutes and I'm like, oh, no. There's a reason I play super strats that are super light and weigh 7 pounds. So I get to Glenwood Music to try out the close guitar, and Dylan, the cat that's working at the store, goes, yeah, we got this Yamaha. And I pick it up and I'm playing with it. I'm noodling with it. And I'm like, First of all, it was heavy. It was way heavier than I was expecting, mainly because of all the electronics in there. It's got a built-in looper and built-in effects and whatever transducers they have inside made it a pretty heavy guitar. For an acoustic guitar, it was heavy. And I was just like, oh no. This isn't the guitar for me. Like I've been wanting it because I've been wanting the looper for no other reason than I wanted a looper. But when I played it, I was like, oh no, this isn't the thing for me. And if I had spent $2,000, $1,800 plus tax and shipping and all that jazz, you're looking at $2,000 on a guitar to find out I don't like it. Well, then I got to send it back. Which most people would go, well, what's the problem? You got to send it back for free. That brings it back to why some of these music shops are closing. For us, the consumer, yeah, we can buy a guitar and have it shipped to our house. We can try it out. If we don't love it, we send it back for free. That's part of the deal. That's part of most of the economic contract with some of these online retailers. You buy it, you try it out, you don't like it, you send it back to us for free. It's free for us. It's not free for them. You know what I mean? Like, it costs, I've shipped guitars. I've sold guitars on eBay and Reverb and all that. I ship guitars. It costs $100 to ship a guitar. Put it in the case, the box, ship it up. It's typically $75 to $100, if not more, to ship a guitar. And yes, these bigger retailers have, deals with UPS or FedEx or whoever. So it's maybe not $100. But dude, when these stores have tens of thousands of customers over the course of a year, if, several thousand of them ship large items back because you try it out, you don't like it, you send it back, that's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that these stores are eating for us to get an instrument that we don't like to send it back. So yeah, PMT probably made 40 or 50 million pounds or dollars or whatever you want to think about it as. But how much did they lose getting gear back, you know? That's probably one of the reasons they went out of business. It's this new relationship that we have as consumers with these retailers, these online stores, and that's why some of these big box stores can't stay in business. Like, I can't speak for the little mom and pop shops. I don't know what their policies are and how much they're eating by, taking back free returns. But finally getting my hands on that Yamaha Tag 3C, I didn't regret spending $1,800 on a guitar that I was like, oh no, I don't like this. If I were able to walk into a Guitar Center or any store in Southern California, it's Southern California. The number of music shops that I've called or gone into that did not have this instrument, mind-boggling. Even the last time I talked to somebody at a Guitar Center, it was like, oh yeah, those are back ordered until like April 2026 or whatever. The dude at Glenwood Music in Colorado, the only reason he had one was because, like, I guess he had a good relationship with his Yamaha dealer, and they're like, yeah, we can get you one. I tried it out and I didn't like it. I didn't love it. And it was an accident. I tried it. I was there trying out the close guitar. And I remember when I went to Guitar Center in Hollywood on Sunset to try out the FSC, the acoustic Yamaha that I bought. Oh, you know what? I just realized I bought the Tobacco Burst one first. It wasn't the red one. I bought the Tobacco Burst first. I remember sitting in the acoustic room at Guitar Center in Hollywood. The guy he puts the batteries in. He had to go get some new batteries. I tuned it up dry without the effects. He turns it on for me. And the first chord I played with a little bit of built-in reverb and chorus, my brain just went poof. Just poof. That's that feeling you get when you get to pick up an instrument in a store, whether it's a big box or a mom and pop. You pick up an instrument and you're like, oh, I need this. I have to have this. That's what we're losing when these shops go out of business. And guitars for me are like shirts. If I find one that I love, I will buy it in multiple colors. That's why I have, I don't know, 7 Van Halen, 7 Ernie Ball Music Man guitars. At one point, I had like 11 Ibanez PGM series guitars, everything from like the 100 to I've got a PGM 10th and a 90th. I've since sold several of those, but like when I get an instrument that I love, I'll just buy it in different colors for different occasions. I'll give you the standard excuse of, yeah, I need to tune one down a half step, or I need to tune one up to flat, or what, or up to F, or whatever. When I got my hands on this FSC, and I played one for the first time, I played the Tobacco Burst one for the first time. Just that poof in my head, oh my God, I need this guitar. That's when I decided, okay, this is the sound and the quality and the feel that I'm going to get, which is the thing that I want. Now I can buy the other ones online. I got good deals on the red one and the natural colored ones. And if the question is, why do I have 3 of them? The red one I take on the road with me. That is my touring guitar. That's the one I use at gigs. I got to have a backup. So I that's two in case something happens and a guitar, you always have to have a backup. And then the other one, I tune it to standard. That's the reason. I have one Yamaha tuned to standard. I usually play everything flat. My voice is a little deeper. I'm a little older. My vocal cords are not what they were when I was in high school. So all the songs I write for my comedy act are in E flat. So I have the red one that I take on tour with me. I have the natural one, which is its backup. And then I have the tobacco one, which is tuned to standard. Also, I'm thinking of getting the tobacco one refinished purple. Why? Because I asked Yamaha if they would do it for me. I said, I will pay whatever amount of money it takes to paint this one purple or get a purple one. And Yamaha said no. It wasn't like I was asking one for free. I was like, I want a purple one. Just take one of the ones you have, paint it purple. I'll pay whatever the cost is. They said no. So I'm just going to have a luthier friend of mine do it. Is that a waste of money? Yeah, it is. But I don't have kids, and I use condoms for a reason. So I've got a little bit of money kicking around. I'm also trying to sell some gear to pay for this. But like after, it's like my Ernie Ball guitars. Like every Ernie Ball Music Man Axis or Eddie Van Halen guitar I have ever played felt the same, sounded the same. So I, over the years, have not had a problem buying them online. But when my mind got blown with these FSCs, I was like, okay, I got to play it, and now I can buy the other ones online because I know they're the same. But the fact is, I got to sit in a store and I got to try it out and I got to play it. And that is the important part. And again, the memories of walking to Music City, driving to Daddy's Junkie Music when I finally had a driver's license, dragging a 100-watt PV head on a skateboard back to my dad's house. All part of my musical DNA. Those are memories that I have and I keep. And if we keep losing music stores, this generation and the next generation of musicians won't be able to have those memories. And that's what makes me sad. Maybe it's good for the mom and pops, the Music Cities, and Ucrest Music's out of business, but maybe this is good for those mom and pops, I kind of want to do a thing now where I go to these smaller mom and pop stores in the cities that I'm going to be touring in and check them out. And I want to patronize them. Patronize, not patronize. I want to patronize. I want to buy stuff from them. And I want to help them survive so that somebody else can get the memories and the feelings that I get from my music stores. So if anything, from this episode of Comedy on 11, I would like you to take this away. If you have a music shop in your town, a smaller mom and pop shop, if you want to go to the Guitar Center or, if you live in Indiana and you can go to Sweetwater, cool, whatever. But if you've got these smaller mom and pop stores, go there. Spend some time there. Get to know Vince or whoever the owner is and patronize them. And help keep that business alive so that we as musicians can have these memories and we can build this DNA into who we are. Yeah, I think that's what I want to tell you. Go find your music shop. Go find your music city or your Kubera music. And then, if you have kids or young musicians, nieces, nephews want to start playing, share that with them. Share those places with them so that they have their place. So I think one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to start going to these music shops around here. I can think of 2 music shops, independently owned, within 2 miles of my house. Do that. Find your place. I don't have something super inspirational to say other than I got to finish this up so I can upload it. And I'm getting ready to go see Superman tonight. I got early screening tickets to go see James Gunn's Superman. But that's it for this episode of Comedy on 11. I'm going to try to schedule some guests for the next episode. Further going forward, more episodes with some guests. With that said, I've got some shows coming up. I've got a lot of shows coming up, as a matter of fact. Some of them I have not added to my website yet. And if you want to go to my website, it's thomtran.com. You can click on tour dates right at the top. Let's see. Upcoming shows. Actually, this is the 8th that I'm recording this, and I'm releasing it. I haven't even put these up on my website yet. But this week, I'm going to be at Flappers Comedy Club on Thursday and Saturday in Burbank. And then the Laugh Factory on Friday this week. So Thursday in Burbank, Friday Laugh Factory in Hollywood. No, Laugh Factory in Long Beach, excuse me. And then back at Flappers on Saturday the 12th. So 10th, 11th, 12th, I'm doing shows. I've got a big show coming up on the 16th. It's one of my Thom Tran Super Funny Friends shows. I've got my buddies Adam Ferrara and Brad Williams going to be on the show along with Lauren Harding and Corinna Yee. Very funny comics, all of them. Very funny comics. So that's going to be at Flappers on the 16th. Doing a new club in LA, the Upstairs LA Comedy Club, downtown Los Angeles. And then I've got some other shows coming up that I haven't really announced yet. There's one coming up in Tulsa, Oklahoma that I can't give the details on until the 15th of July. So I think by the next episode, I'll be able to tell you about it. Maybe, or just go to my website. But a bunch of shows coming up. Buffalo, New York, 2 shows in October. One of them is going to be the International Institute fundraiser that I do every year. This year I'm bringing my friends Matt Kirshen and Corinna Yee. And then I'm going to be opening for Brad Williams the next night at the UB Center for the Arts. So a lot of shows coming up. Check my website, thomtran.com, Instagram page, _TomTran, THOMTRAN. This show is at Comedy on 11. However, I do almost nothing with those socials. Why? I just don't have time, to be quite honest. The YouTube page, if you're listening to this, it's youtube.com/TomTranOnline. If you are listening to it, go to the website, go to the YouTube page. You can watch it. It'll justify this very expensive studio switcher that I bought. And, subscribe to the page if you like it. Tell your friends about it. And next time, hopefully a guest. I think I have my friend Kimberly Clark coming on for another episode coming up soon. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Leave a 5-star comment. As always, turn the laughs up to 11.